Imagine being just 2 years old, standing on a stage, singing Jingle Bells, and the entire audience is already crying. That little girl would grow up to give the world one of the most beloved songs in history, Over the Rainbow. But behind the rainbow, there was only darkness. She was Hollywood's golden girl, yet she was slowly destroyed by the very people who made her a star. This is the heartbreaking, unbelievable true story of Judy Garland. Frances Ethel Gumm was born on June 10, 1922, in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. She was the youngest of 3 sisters in a vaudeville family. Her parents literally ran a movie theater, and that stage became her whole world. At 2.5, they called her Baby. She walked on stage and stole the show. Soon, she and her sisters formed the Gumm Sisters. But behind the curtain, things were ugly. Her father was rumored to have affairs with men. The family was forced to flee Minnesota and eventually landed in California in 1926. Her mother, Ethel, was a ruthless stage mom, the kind who would do anything for fame. Judy later called her the real Wicked Witch of the West, and she started giving her young daughter pep pills to keep her energetic and sleeping pills to calm her down before she was even 10 years old. But this was just the beginning of the nightmare. At just 13 years old, during an impromptu audition, MGM boss Louis B. Mayer signed her on the spot. No screen test needed. They looked at the cute, chubby little girl and said she was too ugly for Hollywood. They called her My Little Hunchback. They made her wear caps on her teeth. They put discs in her nose to reshape it. And worst of all, they put her on a starvation diet of chicken soup, black coffee, and cigarettes, while pumping her full of amphetamines to keep her working 18-hour days. In 1939, at only 16 years old, they gave her the role of a lifetime, Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. She wasn't even their first choice. They tried to get Shirley Temple first, but Judy made that movie immortal. Over the Rainbow became hers forever. She won a special juvenile Oscar. She was America's sweetheart, while secretly crying herself to sleep every night. Can you imagine it? Millions of people cheering for you, while you hate the person you see in the mirror. The studio forced her into an abortion at 19 because they said a baby would ruin her innocent image. She married bandleader David Rose, but that marriage was doomed. Then came Vincente Minnelli. He directed her in Meet Me in St. Louis and gave her the glamorous image she always wanted. They married. They had a daughter, Liza Minnelli. For a short moment, she thought she could finally be happy. But the pills, the pressure, and the pain never stopped. In 1947, while filming The Pirate, Judy had a nervous breakdown and attempted suicide for the first time. MGM fired her from Annie Get Your Gun. They suspended her. In 1950, after 15 years and over 20 films, they threw her out like yesterday's trash. Most stars would have disappeared, but not Judy. In one of the greatest comebacks in showbiz history, she returned to the stage. In 1951 to 52, she sold out the London Palladium and New York's Palace Theatre for weeks. The audience gave her standing ovations that lasted over 20 minutes. In 1954, she delivered what many call the greatest performance of her career in A Star is Born. She was nominated for Best Actress. Everyone thought she would win, but she lost to Grace Kelly. Groucho Marx called it the biggest robbery since Brinks. By the 1960s, she was a legend, but completely broken. Her 1961 concert at Carnegie Hall is still called the greatest night in show business history. The live album made her the first woman to win Album of the Year at the Grammys. Yet, behind the applause, she was drowning in debt, bad managers had stolen her money, and she owed the IRS over $500,000. She was forced to keep performing just to survive. 3 marriages, heartbreak, abuse, addiction. She kept giving everything she had to her audience, even when there was almost nothing left. In 1969, at just 47 years old, Judy was performing in London at the Talk of the Town. On June 22nd, she was found dead in her bathroom. The official cause: accidental overdose of barbiturates. No suicide note. She had simply taken too many pills over too many years. Her body was flown to New York. Thousands of fans stood in the rain for hours just to say goodbye. James Mason, her co-star from A Star is Born, gave a heartbreaking eulogy. He said Judy's greatest gift was that she could wring tears out of hearts of rock. Judy Garland was only 4'11", but she had the voice of a giant, a voice filled with pain, joy, fragility, and unbelievable strength. She remains one of the greatest entertainers who ever lived, ranked 8th greatest female star in Hollywood history by the American Film Institute. Her life was a cautionary tale about what happens when talent is exploited, and a child is never allowed to just be a child. But it was also a story of incredible resilience. Even when the world tried to break her, Judy Garland kept singing, and somewhere over the rainbow, maybe she finally found the peace she was always looking for.